Have you ever stopped to think about how the apps on your phone or those massive systems that run huge companies actually get built? It's not just some kind of magic, right? There's a real, structured process behind it all, a blueprint for success. And today, we're going to break down exactly how it works. Okay, so I want to start with just this number, 2%. That's it. Just let it hang there for a second. What on earth could that possibly mean in the world of tech? Yeah, that's the success rate for IT projects that cost over $100 million in labor. Let that sink in. A staggering 98% of these huge projects are basically considered failures. I mean, think about that. All those hours, all that money, all these brilliant ideas, just poof, gone to waste. This is a huge problem. So the big question is, with a failure rate that high, how do the successful ones, that tiny 2%, actually pull it off? How do they dodge all the pitfalls and turn a cool idea into something that actually works and people want to use? Well, it all comes down to having a rock-solid plan. And this is that plan. It's called the Systems Development Lifecycle, or you'll hear it called the SDLC for short. Think of it like a map. It's the guide that takes a team from that first little spark of an idea all the way through the chaos to a successful launch. It breaks this huge, overwhelming task into clear, logical steps. So who's the guide on this journey? Who's the architect holding the blueprint? Well, that's the systems analyst. These are the people who are the critical bridge between what the business wants and what the technology can do. They're the ones making sure the right thing gets built in the right way. So in this explainer, we're going to walk through the 4 main phases of this life cycle. We'll start with planning, where the big idea gets hashed out. Then we'll move to analysis, which is like the detective work phase. After that, it's design, where we draw up the actual blueprint. And finally, implementation, the big build. All right, let's dive into phase 1, planning. This is all about the big idea.
So here we are right at the beginning of our map, the planning phase. This is the first official step, and honestly, it's where the whole foundation for success is laid. If you mess up here, that mistake is just going to snowball through the entire project. It's that critical.
And in this whole phase, there's one question that's more important than any other. It's not can we build this system, it's should we even build this system? I mean, does it actually provide real value? Is it something we should be focusing on right now? So, how do they answer that question? Well, the team kicks things off by officially starting the project and putting together what's called a system request. This basically forces the person who wants the project to get really clear about their vision. And then comes a super important reality check, the feasibility analysis. This happens before anyone gets the green light to spend big money. And here's a real-world example to make this stick. This is from a company called Drone Tech. Their business need says they want to let clients request drone services through their website. See how that's not a technical goal, it's a business goal. The technology is just how they're going to get there. That's a key distinction. Okay, so you've got a great idea and a clear business need. Awesome. But can you actually do it? Is it even possible? This is where that feasibility analysis really kicks in, and it's a make or break moment. The analysis basically looks at the idea from 3 different angles. First, there's technical feasibility. Do we have the skills and the tech to actually build this thing? Then, economic feasibility. Does it make financial sense? In other words, should we build it? And finally, organizational feasibility, which is my favorite. If we build it, will they come? Will people actually use it and embrace it? All right, so if a project passes all those checks and gets approved, we move into the next phase, analysis. This is where we put on our detective hats. Okay, looking back at our map, we're now in block number 2, analysis. The whole point of this phase is to figure out exactly who is going to use this system, what it needs to do for them, and where and when they're going to use it. So the entire analysis phase really boils down to answering this one question with crystal clarity. What exactly should the new system do? The team has to really dig in and understand the current system, what we call the as-is system, and then define in detail what the new to-be system needs to accomplish. And this means some serious investigation. You've got the team studying how things are done now, interviewing users to figure out what they really need, not just what they say they want, and then building models of the new system. All of this gets wrapped up into a big system proposal, which, you guessed it, leads to another major go or no-go decision from the higher-ups. Okay, so once we figured out the what in the analysis phase, it's time to figure out the how. So let's jump into the design phase.
So in the design phase, the team takes all those requirements they gathered during analysis and turns them into a super detailed technical blueprint for the system.
And the big question here is, how will this system actually work? What will the screens look like? How will the data be stored and organized? What's the overall technical architecture going to be?
This is where some really big decisions get made. Like, are we going to build this thing from scratch? Or should we buy a software package that's already out there? Or maybe we outsource the whole development. Then they get into the nitty-gritty, designing the architecture, the user interface, the database, all of it. And this all gets documented in what's called the system specification. That is the final, official blueprint for the build.
And now, we get to the final phase. This is where all that planning and paperwork becomes a real, tangible thing. It's time for implementation.
So our map shows us we're at the final step. All that planning, all that analysis, all that design work, it all leads right here to actually building the thing, delivering it, and hopefully achieving system success. And just so you know, this is usually the longest and most expensive part of the whole journey.
Now, implementation is so much more than just writing code. Sure, the system has to be built and then tested like crazy, but then it has to be installed, which can be a huge undertaking. Users have to be trained on how to actually use it. And you have to have a plan for ongoing support after it launches. The project is definitely not over on day one. Now, I gotta add a little note here. This straightforward four-phase model we've walked through is often called the waterfall model. It's a foundational concept, and it's based on course material for this explainer. But in the real world today, a lot of teams use more flexible, iterative approaches. Still, the core principles we talked about, planning, analysis, design, and implementation, they're still the beating heart of pretty much any successful project. So there you have it. That's the blueprint for how you turn a simple idea into a successful, working system. By having this kind of structured process, teams can really boost their chances of success and avoid becoming just another one of those failure statistics. It really makes you think, right? Now that you have the blueprint, what problem would you solve first?